Support WrestleTalk!
Be kind to each other in the comments. They can't even do 3-week pushes right anymore. After 2, let's be honest, okay episodes of Raw, which by this year's standards were amazing. Raw is back to its boring, repetitive, momentum derailing worst. Maybe not worst, but it's gotten bad again, folks. Didn't even get the full 3 weeks. I'm Ollie Davis. I'm joined by Lukewarm Luke Owen. We will be reviewing last night's episode of Monday Night Raw. Please give this channel a subscribe. The WrestleTalk Podcast channel. We've got loads of content leading into Money in the Bank next week. And give us a thumbs up. Make a thumbs up party happen. Leave a comment down below. And if you're watching live, get in those Ultrachats to WrestleTalk.com/support. We'll read out every single one over $5. And before we get into that, we must address a little bit of breaking news. It emerged 32 minutes ago that from TMZ Sports, Jimmy Uso has been arrested for a DUI again, allegedly. Or I don't even think it's allegedly at this point. It's there's a police report out.
Yeah, apparently he blew, what was it, a .205 or something like that? Apparently, it was a lot. So yeah, this is not great news. This is a repeat offense, I think, for Jimmy at this point. I don't know the specifics of how many times, but this has happened a fair number of times. It was like 2019 or 2018, I think it might have been the last time that this happened. It feels like it was about that sort of time. We were definitely in the new studio, I seem to recall. But yeah, awful news for everyone.
So this is the second time in 2 years, previously a DUI back in July 2019. TMZ Sports say he was pulled over last night for doing 50 miles an hour in a 35 mile per hour zone. So yeah, we'll see what comes of it because he's only just come back. He's involved in the only story really on SmackDown. He's in a much higher position than he was 2 years ago. Developing situation, open up WrestleTalk.com, follow us at WrestleTalk_TV as well to keep up to date with everything that's going on there. But that's the one side now. Now it's Raw time. I wish it wasn't.
Oh, what a boring show this was, man.
Yeah, it was.
It wasn't bad. It was just real boring.
No, it was bad.
I don't know, man.
Bad.
I don't think there was anything on this show that was as bad as we've had in previous weeks. Or there was.
May I tell you about my sword? Where my family killed the Loch Ness monster.
Oh yeah, but we've been having that for weeks now. But
it got so much worse this week.
Drew's terrible history lessons have been a part of the show now. Sorry, just moving my light. Drew's terrible history lessons have been part of the show now for a few weeks. It's just his character, and it's a bad character. This was a bad week of it. But do you know what? So this is an interesting point for me. I don't know if it's an interesting point for anyone else, but it certainly is for me. As soon as Drew starts talking now, I instantly tune it out. He's got to that stage now. He never used to be. I used to really enjoy a Drew promo. Drew is now Aleister Black in a cupboard. He is now Bray Wyatt spooky promo territory, where it's I know he's doing it well. I know that he is very good at doing promos, but the content is so pointless and nonsense, just nonsensical, that I just instantly tune it out when he's oh, let me tell you about Doodly Dee. I'm cool. Don't need to. Drew cuts a promo. Just need to write that in my notes. That's all I need to talk about.
Arguably the only real proper push WWE have given someone new over the last year. It feels like for the last 5 years, but they certainly did a good job building him up as WWE champion. And I feel like we're now at that point we were with Braun Strowman, where that's it now. He is this person. Even if he goes back to the top of WWE, he'll always have this sort of funk of not being booked that well. They turned it around with Roman, I guess. But that wasn't the worst thing on the show. Maybe it was. Maybe it was the most annoying thing to me.
I think for me, the Cedric thing was the worst thing on the show for me.
Well, let's talk about our excellent thumbnail first. Me and Luke are so happy with this thumbnail.
Oh yeah, pretty pleased with this one.
Yeah, we like this one.
pulling back the curtain somewhat, early birds will have seen that this video was originally titled Worst Segment of the Year. That was the title that sort of Ollie suggested to me this morning, and I was like, bang, I love it. Completely agree. What an awful segment it was. Absolutely. The lightsaber fight that they had with the crutches, dreadful stuff. No, this feud absolutely sucks, and I hate everything about it. Ollie is absolutely right. Look at this amazing thumbnail we've done. We're very pleased about that. And then Ollie messaged me being like, I think we may have jumped the gun a little bit on the worst segment of the year. And I had a look at people's comments and be like, what about this? What about this?
Yeah.
What about this? And I was like, oh yeah, there have been a lot of way worse segments than this one. Actually, this really wasn't all that bad in hindsight.
Yeah, at the end of the day, there's actually a story here that makes sense. It's just so boring and the players are unlikable. What happened? Charlotte Flair came out with a medical status update. And when WWE, I don't know if you saw this, when WWE promoted this ahead of Raw, a lot of people were like, because we've had Becky make her announcement that she's pregnant, Paige have to retire. Like when they say that, it's kind of like, oh, wait, what? Because, Charlotte's been sort of, she's had reports backstage about stuff going on. So you're like, oh my God, is she actually injured? What's happening? Is it surgery again? No, it's all kayfabe. And Charlotte comes out. She's on a crutch.
I'd imagine that's what they were banking on.
Yes, yeah, probably right. So she's on a crutch and she's saying, last week at the end of the match, Rhea Ripley chop blocked me, my own move, and took out my leg. And now I might not be able to compete in Money in the Bank. And this brought out Rhea Ripley, also on a crutch. And when she was coming down, I thought, you know what? She is really obnoxious. This is a pretty good heel mocking of the babyface. But it wasn't. It's meant to be the baby. Rhea's meant to be the babyface here. She gets into the ring. The idea is, aha, I'm a smart babyface. You're not really injured. Neither am I. And then they both draw their crutches and have a little lightsaber fight. Charlotte walks off. There is just nothing to resonate with anybody here. This is a dynamic that hasn't worked ever, because I wasn't even into their Mania match last year, if I'm perfectly honest. And it's getting worse here.
It's this feud. The longer this feud goes, the worse it's getting. It's real bad, man. It's bad TV. This is making Rhea Ripley look awful. It's making Charlotte Flair look bad. And Charlotte Flair had a wicked return as well. When she returned, she was like, I'm the opportunity, and like people want to face off against me because like I present, the best in people and I bring out the best in people. She was aligned with Sonya Deville, and like Sonya Deville was like giving her chances above other people. Like, but all of that has just been dropped like a bad habit. And now her character is, I don't know. And Rhea Ripley's character is, as Sean Ross Sapp keeps putting it, she's the troll face gimmick. She's the troll face meme. That is what she does now. She just trolls people. But it's not a nice baby face. She's not a good heel, which means she's ineffectual. And can you remember the time when the Raw Women's Championship felt like the most important belt on the Raw brand? Like it was bigger than the Universal title when it was Ronda and it was Becky, and everyone was like, I am so into all of this.
Last summer, Asuka, Sasha Banks, Bayley, Kairi Sane. Best storyline in the company for a month there.
Yeah. And like, but now I forget that Rhea Ripley is the Raw Women's Champion. Because she does not. And like, you have brought her up to the main roster and you put the belt on her right away. And my first reaction is, I forget she's the champion. Like, that's a bad job, man.
Yeah. Heel versus heel is a really thankless dynamic to make work. And it makes it incredibly more difficult when the characters have nothing to them. But the other really, really bad thing on this show happened right after that segment.
One other thing I wanted to make note on that is I know there might be some people who will argue, oh, the story's quite good, though, because the story is that Rhea Ripley is she's one step ahead of Charlotte Flair. Charlotte Flair is always doing things like getting herself DQ'd in title matches, a thing that's never happened. She's always faking injuries, a thing that doesn't happen in her character. But it's okay because Ripley is one step ahead of her, and so she's overcoming those. She's overcoming the lessons that Charlotte Flair is trying to teach them. which would be fine, but that's the exact same story they're doing with Mustafa Ali and Mansoor lower down the card, which then makes it feel like this is a lower card feud then.
I don't agree with that. I think that's a fine story. It's the characters that are wrong. I don't think anyone's looking at these two things going, oh my God, that's the same story.
I am. That is the exact same story you're telling with those other two characters. And you know what? Those other two characters are doing it way better. Because I'm digging the Mansoor Ali storyline way more than I'm digging this one.
After that, though, we got Elias and Cedric Alexander taking on R-Truth and Jackson Riker. And this tag match never got started because Akira Tozawa ran down. He was being chased by the undercard for the 24/7 title. R-Truth had to go. They all run off. R-Truth runs after them. It's effectively Riker against Elias and Cedric in a handicap match. But Elias is so scared of Riker, he just backs off. And then Riker pins Cedric in under a minute. So all that it was hardly anything, but he did get some wins. Did he get any over Jeff Hardy? I think he got one over Shelton Benjamin. But it's like they're burying this guy again when he's one of the most promising people on the roster.
This was awful. Absolutely awful. And can you imagine? I mean, it's kind of hard to I don't think we take enough steps back to look at the bigger picture of this. The very first 24/7 segment we had on Monday Night Raw was a bunch of geeks running down from the back, pinning some people, and then running out of the building. That was 2 years ago, maybe getting on for 3 years ago now.
How old is this monstrosity?
They're doing the same thing now on this show. Two and a half years later. When was it?
May 2019. No.
Is it?
May 20th, 2019. Just over 2 years. I thought it was 2 years. Longer.
So 2 years they have been doing this exact spot week in, week out, often with the same guys. If you have no new idea for this belt, get rid of it. Because what is it adding to the show? The whole idea of them doing stuff on YouTube and doing stuff with celebrities, that's not happening anymore. So just do away with it. There's no need for it. No one is getting over from any of this. It's the same thing every single time. And I hadn't really thought about it. It was something that Sean mentioned. I was like, oh my God, you take a step back and you look at this from an objective standpoint. This is terrible. This is terrible creative.
How many officially recognized championship reigns do you think there's been? Want to take a stab?
215.
Oh, lower.
Is it lower than that? Oh, God. I mean, Truth's won it about 50 times.
R-Truth has won it 52 times.
Oh, man, I was pretty close on that one. 180 then. 180.
145. But anyway, this happens. And what's really problematic here is no one is into Jackson Riker. I'm quite stunned at how. Well, I'm not stunned because he's got a lean body. It's Vince McMahon's type. He's ex-military. He went through some stuff last year that other people got fired, even though he didn't. He's obviously someone that Vince sees something in. And I said last week there's a little bit of fire to him when he was whipping himself, but dear God, nowhere near the amount of charisma needed to push him over some other guys. And when fans get in there and he's having matches or squash matches against people, it is going to be crickets. It's going to be crickets at first, and then it's going to be boos.
That's what I was going to say. I don't think people, I know a lot of people said he's going to get booed in the live crowds. I don't think he is. I don't think people are going to react to him at all. I think it's going to be, like you say, crickets. And I think that, I don't know if you noticed this, but did you feel there were some matches where they turned off the crowd noise or lowered the crowd noise down from the Thunderdome? And I was like, are they just preparing these lads for what it's going to be like wrestling in front of live crowds again, that no one's going to be reacting to them? Can't get used to us pushing buttons to make people react anymore. You've got to get used to it, kid, about people not caring about your matches. Because I don't think people are going to react to Jackson Riker whatsoever in all of this, because he is pretty bland.
Did you see? Always has been, unfortunately, going back to Impact and TNA as well. Did you see who the undercarders who chased after the title belt were here?
I did notice that Angel Garza and Shelton Benjamin were among them. So Angel Garza's push, well, that's well done. This match was basically about the ends of pushes. Angel Garza certainly isn't being pushed. Shelton Benjamin certainly isn't being pushed. Jackson Riker is being pushed. Elias, how is he still feuding with Elias, by the way? Like, how? I mean, I shouldn't be surprised. It's WWE, but how are they still?
They're waiting for the payoff in front of fans.
They had
the fans
the payoff last week.
But not in front of the fans.
Oh, mate. And
he's ex-military.
Cedric's push is over as well. But you pointed out in your review, was Umberto a part of this? No,
yes, it was 4 people. Drew Gulak, of course. Garza, Shelton Benjamin. Shelton Benjamin annoyed me because he ran like he was transfixed on that 24/7 title. Didn't even look at Cedric. Like, how much better would this have been if everyone runs in and you're like, oh, it's a bit of chaos, and then, oh no, wait, Sheldon's now beaten up Cedric. It was a ruse. He snuck in, and then Cedric is worked over. Riker just pins him, and you embarrass Cedric that way. At least there's a reason for him to lose there. But no, yes, one of them was also Humberto Carrillo, and I thought, oh well, they're going with Ricochet then, out of that whole little love triangle that was last month over the US title. 2 segments later, they announced next week Humberto Carrillo versus Sheamus for Sheamus's first US title defense.
Yeah, it is.
Is it for the belt?
Because the gimmick has always been that he's never been putting the belt on the line, has he? I mean, he still wins, but then he
Why
never
not
puts the belt
build
on the
him
line.
up? Why not build up Carrillo then?
Well, they did last month when he beat Sheamus. Remember, he got that roll up win over him.
Stop it. Anyway, but bad optics as well. Riker beating Cedric, considering the online controversies of last year. Yeah. Well, let's see what you guys all think on the bad Raw. Remember, WrestleTalk.com/support. Get your Ultrachats in. We'll read out every single one of them over $5. Anthony Velasquez says, well, Raw being good 2 weeks was nice, but it went straight back to being bad again really quick. This week, the main roster is killing Rhea Ripley. She is the living embodiment of the troll face meme. Jonathan Hedman, not going to lie, I'm losing interest not only in Raw, but wrestling in general. I made it to the Flair segment, then ended up watching Hamilton. Sigh, this company. That's a big shift there. You don't just well, I'm 2 hours into Raw and I'm not feeling it. I'll start watching a 3-hour pre-recorded musical on Disney+.
I
love Hamilton.
I think it's about the shift of not being into wrestling anymore. And I was like, I don't think that's surprising. I think you look at YouTube channels across the wrestling landscape of what numbers they were all doing 2 years ago and what sort of numbers they're doing now. Just there isn't as much interest in wrestling as there was during when New Japan were just at their apex. I just don't think there's people into it as much anymore. So you're pulling a face to disagree.
What, 2099 WWE? We saw they're doing well for themselves.
Well, that's because they've got 3 lions in their videos and they're
Big
making
cats.
him do smoochy content.
Smoochy for the content. Bishop Badass, 2-part. With Riker's gear, are they trying to turn him into Hulk Hogan? Are they that blind? Also, if you could bring any match stipulation into another company, what would it be? I think Ultimate X would be crazy in WWE or AEW. Love you guys. # Baby Oliver Lucas. Jam that jam. It's the person who named their child after us. That's so crazy. So a couple of questions there. This Hulk Hogan thing, did you see Big Swole tweeted?
I haven't seen what she said, but I did see that she did do a tweet about it.
Of course, Big Swole and Cedric Alexander are at least going out. I don't know if they're married. In real life, they are together. And she said, no one wants to see him get pinned by little Hulk Hogan. So I didn't pick up on what his tights were like.
They are red and yellow. They're red and yellow trunks. So it probably, but they're more red than they are yellow because they're red with yellow as opposed to sort of being the other way around. So I didn't pick up on it either, but maybe Bishop's onto something that they are trying to make him a little mini Hogan thing now.
As far as stipulation, Royal Rumble in AEW.
We kind of have that, I suppose. We sort of have that with the Casino Battle Royale.
It's nowhere near as good. We all know that. And finally, for now, T Carter 115. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. Drew's last 2 promos have been mocking his recent history kick. He's crapping on the bad bit he was given for a month. If you actually listen to them, he still needs to fade away for a bit, though. Yes.
So I think
terrible.
what T Carter is saying there, though, is that you're wrong. And Drew's promos are actually making fun of the history gimmick now, and we're not supposed to take them seriously.
Well, they have gotten more ridiculous, and I think that's probably Drew's a smart guy. He's like, what possible way can I make this work? I'll do it to such an extent where smarter fans will take it as me making fun of the material I'm given, because there is no other way to make that stuff work. But I still think it's bad.
But also, that doesn't work. Like, if Drew's promos now are the promos that I have done previously are bad, then does that mean that are we supposed to infer from that he is reading written material that is given to him and he is now making fun of the writers who are giving him written material? Is he making fun of himself for doing history promos? Like, as a character, why would Drew be cutting promos that are making fun of his own promos?
Yeah, it doesn't work. All your Ultrachats, WrestleTalk.com/support. Get them in. We'll read out every single one over $5 before the end of the show. And if you are just joining us, it's being reported by TMZ that Jimmy Uso has been arrested for a DUI. Go over to WrestleTalk.com to keep up with that developing situation. We don't know anything else right now. But this episode of Raw opened in the most uninspiring way possible. It's a Miz TV Money in the Bank. All the Raw competitors. So obviously Morrison was already there. Drew McIntyre came out, claimed to be related to Davy Crockett. It was crap, proper crap. Ricochet came out, so annoying, unlikable. But then thankfully here's Riddle, and he was actually quite funny. Sat on top of the ladder, said hi, this is what we do now. And he sort of dedicated his involvement in the match to Randy, like Randy was dead.
That made me laugh. There were 2 things that made me laugh in this. Matt Riddle was one of them, and John Morrison calling someone a splash hole, because his whole thing now is that he's a water type Pokemon, so he just makes lots of like water puns.
That's Doudrop's gimmick.
And so that at least made me chuckle. Friggin' hell, though, how unlikable is Ricochet? Christ on a bike. I'm the eye to the eye to this. I was like, get off my TV. Like, that is an instant reach for the remote, turn it on mute, because I cannot listen to you talk anymore.
Yeah, very bad. But AJ Styles and the Moss came out because AJ felt hard done by last week. He didn't want Riddle to be in that match. He didn't get pinned, so he's not in the Money in the Bank match. So he sort of beat up Riddle and set up a match for later on. But when I look at a Moss, do you know what I think?
What do you think?
The question I ask myself.
Can you remember the tallest man you've ever seen?
Yes.
So I saw this in your 5-minute review, Buddy Murphy's favorite show on YouTube, by the way.
I think they're called WrestleTalk?
Question mark. Have you been watching?
To be fair, that's an Australian accent. It's a question mark at the end.
The Iconics would have said it the exact same way. It's like, and Rhea Ripley. Would you have you been watching just Unsolved Mysteries a lot as of late or something?
Fact or fiction? This was I had so much fun watching something else in the Raw review last week. Can I show you my favorite new thing on YouTube?
What's your new favorite thing on YouTube?
It is Jonathan Frakes, of course. William Riker, from the much superior Riker to Jackson.
Oh, yeah.
I would cheer this baby face.
Are you beard or beardless, Riker?
Beard.
Of course. I mean,
it's weird when he's not got a beard.
I'm always looking out for that person that says beardless, because they must be out there.
Well, he used to host a show called Fact or Fiction in the 90s for the Sci-Fi Channel. And he would start every episode posing a question. Here's a load of them.
Have you ever walked out of a mall into a huge parking area and realized you'd forgotten where you parked your car?
Ever gone mountain biking?
What do you want to be when you grow up?
What's the right tip? Have you called a plumber to your home lately? How superstitious are you? How much money would it take to make you spend a night in a cemetery?
Would you display this as a trophy?
Do you have a pet? Do you have a sweet tooth? Do you believe in the power of a curse? Have you had your hearing tested lately? Planning a trip soon? Can you remember the tallest man you've ever seen? Do you love to go a-wandering beneath a clear blue sky? Have you noticed what big stars real estate agents have become? Are you careful with your personal records? Does your computer ever seem to have a mind of its own? Have you ever visited a Chinatown section in a major city? Have you ever visited a flea market? Have you ever visited a truck stop? Did you ever have a job as a waiter? Have you noticed how many successful restaurants are theme-based these days? Have you ever had the desire to write your initials in wet cement?
What's funny about this, Dave, is that this was a big thing on the internet about 5 years ago.
No, I missed this. This is new to me.
Yeah, it's good though, isn't it? I do, because like everyone's like having a conversation. Like that video was like having a conversation with a 6-year-old who was just all the questions that they want to ask you.
I've never noticed successful restaurants being themed.
No, have you not? Oh no, I was listening to a podcast about this. What a millennial way to start a conversation. I heard a podcast about this not too long ago, and I was chatting to my brother about it, like about how there used to be a lot of themed restaurants, and now there aren't as many more. Like that gimmick.
So
is
this
dead
was a
and done.
craze,
It
like
was a
Planet
craze for a while.
Hollywood,
Yeah,
Rainforest
like
Cafe.
Yeah, people used to have lots of themed restaurants. Have you ever been mountain biking? That's my favorite one.
Because he's on the full thing. He rides into shot. Do you ever get the urge to write your name in wet cement? What?
Yes.
What was that setting up? What mystery was that setting up?
Did it like make cars crash or something? I bet you.
Anyway.
Or maybe that was poor timing.
This was a rubbish episode of Raw. So they attacked Riddle and they set up a match for later on. Babyfaces cleared house in the ring, and that led to Ricochet versus John Morrison. A pretty good match. I saw it last week. Had no need to see it again. We're seeing it next week as well. And a last man standing stipulation. And Ricochet, the finish was Ricochet diving over the top rope onto Morrison, who was on the apron. I think they were trying to do a spinning scoop slam, not scoop slam, but a spinning power slam off of the apron. They didn't really do that, but they both ended up on the floor. Morrison got in before the 10 count. Miz got his wheelchair in the way of Ricochet, so Ricochet couldn't get in. To me, that's illegal. The referee was looking right at that. He should eject Miz. It's obstruction.
Hated this finish.
Terrible.
Man. Awful finish. Yeah, because like Miz was stopping him from getting in the ring. He was interfering with Ricochet trying to get back in the ring, and the referee staring at Miz doing this, and it's like 7, 8, 9, 10. Sorry, you got counted out. Awful finish.
Have you ever been obstructed by a man in a wheelchair in a wrestling match? We could do this for Raw. I could call up Jonathan Frakes.
He's probably on Cameo.
Yeah, and I could say, look, can you just list all of these questions I have about Monday Night Raw?
Have you ever thrown a pie at Kevin Owens?
Have you ever given birth to a hand?
Let's have a look. I'm just going to see if he is.
You're looking for
1 second. I'm going to see if he
because
is.
You all know each other, don't you?
Yeah, all of us Cameo lot. We chat to each other all the time.
You hang out in a mansion next to the TikTok mansion.
Yeah, what cameos you done this week? That sort of thing we talk about. What's the best cameo you've ever done? Jonathan Frakes. Yes, he is. He is there. You can get him for a cool. He doesn't stipulate how much he costs. You have to wait 2 days though.
That's high ticket.
It's 24 hours for mine.
That's high ticket. Mods, can you all collect some questions from the best questions posed by the comment section about, it has to be about WWE Raw currently. And we'll see if we can get Jonathan Frakes to record that. Don't do a cameo now.
Hi, my name is Jonathan Frakes, and as this is my first contact with Cameo, I invite you all to make your requests, and I will do my very best to make it so. Thanks.
Oh,
he said, "Make it so."
That isn't his line. That's John Luke's line. That's like if I was in the tag team with The Rock and I was like on Cameo and said, get it over to me because I smell what you're cooking. That's just not on. He stole a line.
Maybe it's because he did make things like Jean-Luc Picard would say, "Make it so," and he would then make it so.
Or do you think if you look in shot, I'm sure Tony Schiavone and Cody know this. If you look in the shots, whenever John Luke is saying, "Make it so," Jonathan Frakes just to the right of him is going, like mouthing along with him. Engage.
Do you ever know who's the face in the Raw Women's Division? Have you ever had goo come out of your mouth for no reason? Have you ever watched Raw this week? Have you ever seen good. Byron Saxton?
Someone's saying it's $300, which is $225. So please, Ultrachats us in that money. Anyway, this was rubbish. Well, no, it wasn't rubbish. That's unfair. It was a bad finish. Both guys worked hard. We're going to get it again next week in a Falls Count Anywhere match. Backstage, earlier on, Jinder Mahal, the Canadian Indian badass, turns up on his motorcycle.
What was this, man? Like, Jinder just all of a sudden arrives like the American badass on a motorbike. I'm like, what's going on here?
I think Eric Bischoff's got the book again. You don't get motorbikes in wrestling unless the Bischoff's around. Mm-hmm. But he cut a promo. He came across as such a dick. It's like, hey guys, look at my new motorbike within the shed, just standing there. And he then told Kevin Patrick that he is annoyed with Drew McIntyre because he texted him recently, but Drew didn't text back for 2 days and then said, "I'm too busy." But rather than writing out the full word TOO, he only wrote the number 2. And this is the sort of character motivation that someone who doesn't text people would write.
This is the character motivation of a lower mid-card gimmick, which is what it is. And unfortunately, I feel like it is dragging Drew down with him.
But I feel like the writing team, whoever signed off on this or thought this was a good idea or came up with it, they're writing for someone who thinks texting is what it was 15, 20 years ago.
Oh, God, yeah. No one texts anymore. No one texts anymore.
It's all the voice notes.
Oh, I hate that, though. I was once on a train, and I was sat next to this woman who was on her phone, and she was sending voice notes back. Like, she was recording voice notes, and she would like, stop, send it to her friend. And then she would just stare at her phone, wait, and then something would come through. She'd press play, and a voice note would play out the other end of her friend replying to her voice note. And then she'd go, stop, record, stop, send. Wait, and like they did this for about 20 minutes. I was like, you are having a phone call in the longest way possible.
Just do it, yeah. Have you ever watched a woman record voice note after voice note? So they're going to have a match later. Nia Jax, Shayna Baszler, and Reginald are preparing. Don't know what they're really doing. Reginald can see Bliss behind them. We can see Bliss behind them. The camera looks away, looks back. She's not there. And Reginald's like, oh, yeah. And Shayna's like, shut up, you stupid Reginald. And then they leave and Bliss is there, whatever. Nikki A.S.H cuts a promo. Good for her.
It was basically the same promo as last week, just not as good.
Mm-hmm. Which was not as good as the previous week's promo. They all bickered a bit over who's going to win Money in the Bank. Bliss turned up. She's like, I'm going to win it. And I just feel like Bliss... there's a lot of criticisms to level at Bliss's character, and they're all justified. But one thing she did have going for her was she did feel special in that she had a special gimmick, a special segment. You only saw her occasionally. She didn't really interact with the rest of the roster. When she came out for a match, it felt like something you don't see that often. But now she's everywhere. She's coming down for 8-woman tags.
Yeah, just having matches like a regular Joe now. Like, she doesn't feel special anymore. And she's just a wrestler now. That is what it is. Like they removed all the Fiend stuff from her. Lily isn't around anymore. She is just a wrestler with some makeup. Like, that's what her gimmick is now. I as much as I forget that Rhea Ripley is the Raw Women's Champion, I forget that Asuka and Naomi are in Money in the Bank this year. Weekly.
Well, they lost the match here.
Again, I hasten to add.
So you had 4 wrestlers, Asuka, Naomi, Nikki A.S.H, and Alexa Bliss. They're all in the Money in the Bank match for Raw's side of things. They're up against Shayna Baszler, Nia Jax, Eva Marie, and Doudrop, and Nia Jax gets the win. Meaning all the people who are in the actual big ladder match at the pay-per-view just took a loss.
But Ollie, who was the person that Nia Jax pinned?
It was Nikki.
Well, of course, because she had a 3-week push. So now the 3-week push is over, so she had to get pinned, so she knows where she stands within this division. What a terrible decision that is to pin. You're trying to give this new character some momentum to push her forward, giving, I don't know, people who are going into the Money in the Bank a little bit of like fire behind them. Nope, just get her pinned by Nia Jax of all people, who's not doing anything at the moment. Why on earth would you make that decision? I know why you make that decision, because you have to do the gimmick of Eva Marie on the outside being the winner of this match is Eva Marie. Like, so you can do that. And then Nia Jax looks at her and be like, what? I think you'll find I won that match. And you're like, oh, cool. So Nia Jax can now go kill Eva Marie because she's like, no, I won that match. You should say my name. I won that match. We're the winners of this match. And Reginald goes, it's not worth it, mate. Like, why are you stopping her? Like, why? And then, like, poor old Viper standing behind her going, like, what's she doing? What's she doing? I was like, the same thing she's been doing for 4 freaking weeks. Why are you Can't believe she said that. I can't believe how dare she say that? Of course she said that. That's what she always does. Eva Marie is the only character in this that looks good. Everyone else around her looks like an absolute imbecile.
Have you ever debuted a superhero gimmick only to be beaten 3 weeks later? I was waiting a long time to say
that. Sorry, mate.
So long that you'd stop talking about Nikki A.S.H.
Sorry, I got onto other things.
The Nikki A.S.H. stuff was a minute ago.
This story is so nonsensical. Why is Viper still tagging with her? Like, there's literally no explanation as to why.
And in all of this, Bliss also hypnotized Reginald. So you're like, okay, that sounds pretty bad. No, it was worse than what we're saying. I actually, for what it's worth, I thought some of the match was pretty decent. Like, it was pretty fast-paced at the start. Everyone hit a bunch of dives. That was fun. But it's the storyline. It's the booking of this women's division that's dragging it down so bad.
2 other things I wanted to make note of this.
2 other things?
2 other things I wanted to make note of this match.
We've got to pick up the pace.
I liked one spot in this match, and that was when Viper and Nia Jax did the squash thing in the middle. Like, they were like, I don't know, Earthquake and Typhoon or something. That was rad. I thought that was awesome. The other thing as well is that Eva Marie's gimmick doesn't make any sense. Her whole thing is supposed to be, I'm inspiring people to wrestle. She wanted to tag in this match. Surely she doesn't want to wrestle. That's the whole point of her character. So her character now is, I don't want to wrestle, but also I will tag in and out of this match and do a bad job of wrestling. So none of it now makes any sense.
MVP and Bobby Lashley cut a promo backstage on the New Day with women who are not prostitutes, guys. Stop it. No one said they were. They're not prostitutes. We got Mustafa Ali versus Mansoor. They had a couple of minutes, and it was pretty good. I thought Mansoor's got some real, genuine babyface fire to him. We all love Ali. I think he's very good as a heel as well, which I never saw coming. And Ali pretended that he injured his foot when he got it caught in the ropes, but it was all a trap to roll up Mansoor. Get another roll up victory.
Well, I mean, I'm glad that you like this, because we're probably going to get it for the next 3 or 4 weeks on TV.
It's going to be on Main Event. But what we definitely will get for the 3 to 4 weeks will be a blessing. This is running for months. Drew McIntyre versus Jinder Mahal. And before this match, this is where we got Jinder doing his... He cut a promo backstage on the origins of his family sword. And he said, once upon a time, it was used to slay the Loch Ness Monster. Something about a tooth from the Loch Ness Monster. And a claymore.
I told you, dude, I don't pay attention anymore.
It's terrible. Like, this is When Drew McIntyre is cutting a promo about the Loch Ness Monster, like a couple of years ago, I'd be like, oh yeah, of course, because that's what WWE do. They boil you down to your simplest, most imbecilic stereotype. I wouldn't have expected that after all the good work they did building him up.
But like this whole feud with Jinder is them being in a comedy act. So he may as well start doing lower mid-card promos now.
Yeah. So I was curious about this match because, of course, Drew and Jinder have both publicly spoken about how they've wanted to do it for ages. They're obviously very good friends. They think they can put on a good match. And I watched it and I was just like, Drew's very good. He's shows a lot of fire. That kip up. They did a suplex on the announcer's table. Drew chucking Jinder around with the belly to bellies, but I did not care. I thought the pacing was really slow.
Yeah, I think Veer and Shanky look like if you ordered the Singh Brothers off of Wish.com. They are just crap versions of the Singh Brothers.
But yeah, like Drew did a callback to 3MB in this. And did you notice? So Jinder in the shirt started beating up Drew McIntyre, DQ loss, another crappy finish. And then they're posing, and then Jinder just legs it up the ramp. Did you see this?
I did not see this.
And I thought, oh, Drew must have like kipped up and he's going for him, and Jinder's ran away like a cowardly heel. No, we then got loads of like recaps, and Drew McIntyre was still selling the Colossus. And Jinder's now at the top of the ramp and he's stolen the sword. So what that says to me is Jinder thought he was off air. Yeah, missed his cue.
It could be. Like, I've never noticed this before as well, but Sean pointed out, apparently Jinder does the Colossus wrong every single time. He doesn't know when he's like where he's supposed to collapse his hands to like do the sort of the choke bit of the hold. He does it. Apparently, he does it wrong every single time, and does it wrong in different ways.
Well, so we've now got a story about a stolen sword
because it's a lower mid card feud. So of course you're going to feud over something as terrible as that. Props, Ollie. You need props.
There was that report a few weeks ago where Vince McMahon wanted all these matches to have some kind of stakes. Yeah, I just think, like, fair enough that the sword stealing might work if you hadn't just completely devalued it with bollocks about the Loch Ness Monster. Doesn't make... New Day cut promo on Bobby. They're very good. We got T-Bar and Mace coming out. They've come back. They take on the Lucha House Party. And I was like, okay, back to normal. Big guys win. But no, Lucha House Party won.
Did you get that door?
I think it's our Ricardo shop. It's early. It's 4 to 5 p.m. that was scheduled for.
Rather than talk about this match, do you want me to recap what Mason T-Bar's previous 5 matches were?
Oh, yes.
So, obviously, this week, the Lucha House Party beat them in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. On the 28th of June, on main event, Mason T-Bar defeated the Lucha House Party. On the 14th of June, on main event, Mason T-Bar defeated Lucha House Party.
Right.
Then at the start of June, they were on Raw in a tag team battle royal that featured the Lucha House Party, although just one of them. And then on the 31st of May, Mason T-Bar on Raw defeated the Lucha House Party in 2 minutes, 45 seconds.
Isn't it crazy that I saw this match and I thought, oh, it's a fresh matchup. I don't remember any of those.
Do you know, they've been all they've done, and previous to that, they were feuding with Braun Strowman and Drew McIntyre. Do you remember they were the main event stars?
Yeah, well, they were brought in, weren't they, to cost Drew a match? Jesus. Well, they've lost now. They've lost the Lucha House Party Best of 38 series.
They kept calling it an upset win.
It was a roll-up as well.
I was like, they called it an upset win. I was like, it would be an awesome upset win if you'd have perhaps like played clips of them constantly beating them. Like if you'd have highlighted the fact that Mason T-Bar have beaten them 4 out of the last 5 times that they faced each other, then them getting a win here would have been like, oh, and they finally get a win. What a shock victory. As opposed to they pretended that none of the other stuff had ever happened and Lucha House Party just beat them. So no one gets anything.
After that, Riddle had a backstage bit with Damian Priest. Not wrestling Damian Priest. He is purely there for Matt Riddle to deliver bits to.
Well, I mean, Bad Bunny's not there anymore, so you've got to do it to someone else, I guess. I'm sure glad that he won that feud with The Miz because it's meant that The Miz has gotten more TV time off the back of it. Like he won the feud.
After that, we probably got the best thing on the show, I'd say. AJ Styles versus Riddle, although this had a rubbish finish as well. Riddle still selling his injured ankle from the previous week, which was cool. I thought he did an actual good job there, unlike like the Seth Rollins mode of selling, oh, my shoulder, dive. You know, he was actually using it as part of how it would affect his offense. Even his entrance when he hopped in, he was like, ouch. There was a call out to Orton with a draping DDT off the ropes from Riddle, but ultimately the Viking Raiders just appeared from behind the barricade, looked to the Moss, and then AJ got distracted by this because...
Can you remember the tallest man you've ever seen?
and Riddle rolled him up for the win.
Yeah. Oh, rubbish. Awful finish to the match. Because, like, they didn't do anything. They literally just came up from the barricade and were like, hey. And the Moss was like, "Aboo!" And AJ was like, hey, man, the earth's flat. And then he got pinned. Like, it was, what was this?
He did say that. if you listen... He's like, who said the earth isn't flat?
Just got up and was like, the Viking community. And then got pinned.
The Viking community. It's just... what we said last week that they did very well getting around whatever reason Orton's off for. You know, it could be planned time off. I don't know why you would take planned time off during a pretty big storyline. It's the hottest act on Raw right now. This was not a good way to get round Randy's absence. I thought it was very much treading water. After that, we got the Charlotte Flair bit we've spoken about, then the Elias and Cedric versus R-Truth and Riker one we've spoken about, and the main event. Oh, actually, before that, we got a rundown of 2 weeks of matches.
Well, fans are coming back now. We've got to start promoting things.
So we've got Carrillo versus Sheamus next week, along with the Morrison Ricochet Falls Count Anywhere. That's the last Thunderdome match?
Yeah, so they've taped next week's Raw, apparently, and then it's one more week of Raw. And so, yes, they've taped next week's one, and then in 2 weeks' time, I think they're back in front of live fans, right?
Mm-hmm. Wow. Hopefully,
or is Money in the Bank?
Or
is Money in the Bank the first one in front of fans?
The SmackDown before Money in the Bank is the first one in front of fans.
Okay,
and it is to go home next week.
Okay, so they've announced because I was going to say like the Viking Raiders AJ, which I thought that was in front of fans, because I was going to say I bet the Viking Raiders are going to get the win, so you can like do a title change on the first show back. But if that's done in the Thunderdome, then I guess AJ and Amos retain.
No, it's singles matches, isn't it? That's
next week, but then in 2 weeks' time is the tag title match. That was what I'm saying. Oh, that will be in front of fans because next week's the go home show for Money in the Bank. Okay, then in which case, then I do think the Viking Raiders are getting the win. Sorry, I've done a win.
We understand calendars. But the main event of this show was New Day versus Bobby Lashley and MVP. I have been pretty into this feud, but I felt this was at best, again, treading water, at worst, actively derailing some momentum. New Day won. MVP was like in most of the match, getting worked over. Kofi hit him with the Trouble in Paradise. I question having Woods come back after the Hell in a Cell spot and beatdown from Bobby, when the point of the story is to take all of Kofi's friends away from him. Kofi says that's why he's been so successful. He's about the love, the friendship, the positivity. And Bobby is the opposite to that. He's very much, no, I surround myself with business associates. You get ahead by being cutthroat. And Bobby was going to take out Kofi's friends to see really what is left at the crux of Kofi's core. But then they just bring Xavier back the week after.
And I think this is so. I mean, yeah, it's basically so that Kofi can get a pin, because like the whole reason that MVP was put into this match is so that you can pin MVP and you can give the New Day a win leading into Money in the Bank. Be like, oh my God, what momentum he has. He pinned the manager. But like it sort of I think it derails a lot of the emotion that we had from the Hell in a Cell match.
Yeah, I love MVP. I don't want to see him wrestle. I think him wrestling takes away from his managerial presence.
Completely agree. And it also, man, it proper like doesn't irk me, but really upsets me when Bobby Ashley keeps going like, we're the Hurt Business. I'm like, no, you're not. You're not the Hurt Business anymore. Stop pretending.
You're the almighty Ashley. And MVP as his manager. Well, overall, I gave it a 2 out of 5. By last week's standards, it's a 1 out of 5. But by the rest of the years, it's a 2 out of 5.
Yeah, not a great show. I'd have also given it 2 out of 5. Boring this was. And 47% agreed with you and I. 25% thinking it was average, but 21% thought it was a 1 out of 5 rawful show. So that is very much in the bottom half of things there. 3% saying it was rawsome, 4% thinking it was a 4 out of 5 core. But yeah, most people saying 2 out of 5 show.
We'll get to all of your Ultra Chats very quickly. WrestleTalk.com/support. We'll read all of them out over $5 before the end of the show. But before then, Patreon, our new super enhanced WrestleTalk Patreon, because WrestleTalk's Patreon and partsFUNknown's Patreon have combined to create the Super Wrestling Patreon, where what we've pretty much done is we've just taken the Quizzlemania perk from partsFUNknown, put it into WrestleTalk. Wow! I'm going to be competing with you on the first one. So go over, sign up to our Patreon page. We've also got a WrestleTalk extra poll for mine and Luke's classic pay-per-view review, which is currently very excitingly being won by Luke.
It's being currently won by Bash at the Beach 2000. Yes! I mean, it's closely being followed up by Battleground 2016, which is the Shield triple threat, which will be good. Like, I'm not taking that away.
I've reviewed it.
Have you?
Yeah, covered that. I was making videos when that came out.
Oh, well, blow me down. I would much rather do Bash at the Beach 2000. I think there is a so much more interesting stuff to talk about in that. But hey, that's why we put it into your hands. If you'd rather us talk about Battleground 2016, then by all means. Also, I want to point out, Bash at the Beach 96 is also on that poll, the formation of the NWO. And it is not doing well in the poll. So if you want to hear us talk about that, go show that some love.
And if you pledge $25 a month or more, you will get a shout out and a wrestling nickname in our WrestleTalk Hall of Fame on this very show. Thank you, Luke's favorite fan, the one, the only, the awesome Bubba.
The roller coaster, Robert Acosta.
The Vision, Adonis.
Ronald Coleman. Baby!
The Blacksmith, Jason Smith.
Ryan B. Bad.
The British Bulldog, Philip Boy J. Smith Jr.
Shield Maiden, the Zornice.
He's no jackass, Dano.
Probably starring alongside Darby Allin. He's a sexy man. Sexy man. Not an Andrew Gross man. Gross man.
He can last Sean Thur longer than you in the ring.
And lastly, for this Hall of Fame class on the 6th of July 2021, the cleaner, Kenny Shah.
Go over to WrestleTalk's Patreon page and join us there. I was shocked because I just looked at how many Ultra Chats we had. I was like, we got 4 pages. When did that happen? They're all questions for Jonathan Frakes. So let's do your your donations now. Nate S. As Jericho would say, not to be political, but unfortunately, I think there's a large enough segment of population that would cheer Riker, and that's what they're counting on. Also, they love a USA chant. And other news, vote Dominion 2015. Jam that jam for that poll.
Nate S., I mean, that is a very, very bold play. I don't think Dominion 2015 is winning.
Riley Finlayson. If I'm correct, Ricochet was Prince Puma. You are correct. So it's no surprise they're having great matches. Of course, the history of Morrison and Lucha Underground. Shame about both their characters. I think Drew's weird promos are so he can avoid giving away tactics to the interviewer. Whatever happened to the Garza Rose abuse? Yeah,
3 week
it's
push.
Just been dropped. I just think it's just stereotypical promos.
Yeah. I think a lot of fans are trying to write themselves a reason for these promos. The reason is Vince thinks it's getting him over.
Haven asks, have you ever been impaled by a square mallet?
Hey, that is some kind of mallet.
Tales P, remember when Nikki Cross was number one contender after Hell in a Cell? Did I dream that?
I mean, she was feuding with them, wasn't she? She beat both Flair and Rhea Ripley in Beat the Clock challenges.
But she was never number one contender.
I don't think she was ever. No, she was just a pawn.
Yeah.
She was just there to give both the challenger and champion losses going into their championship match.
Marjo 32. Alexa Bliss is like Woody, and we are Andy. I don't want to play with you anymore. Have you ever had your gimmick suck? Oh, that's your question for Frakes. Tales P. MVP has more women with him than the whole SmackDown roster.
I don't know how they're filling 2 extra slots on the SmackDown Women's Money in the Bank, mate.
Well, that's why you get Zelina back, isn't she?
That too.
Doesn't she conduct herself well on social media? I think
Dirt sheet boy.
Yeah. Charles Berg, poor review number 9. Danny is an Australian shepherd who is completely insane. She likes to herd dogs in the pack and enjoys running at high speeds, knocking over anything in her path. 11 out of 10. Nicknames, Doinkles, Dinking Doink Nuts, Danny Phantom, Roar is Snore again. That's a good dog. Killface EXW, I would like to thank Ollie for recommending Manscaped. I saw the ad last week, and if the Lawnmower 3.0 is good enough for Ollie's eyebrows, then damn it, the Lawnmower 4.0 will be good enough for me, and it was. Get your Lawnmower 4.0 at manscaped.com/WTTV. Thank you, Killface.
It's good, isn't it?
Sponsors are over.
I like to hear it.
James Hanley, Pokemon trainer Eva Marie, would like to battle. Pokemon trainer Eva Marie sent out Doudrop. Go. What made up Pokemon do you send out? Mine is the Pokemon Poor Decisionosaur. So, this is very good. It works better written down, James. But I appreciate your comment. Gabrielle Ray has, for the Jonathan Frakes Cameo Fund, also possible questions. Have you ever chased after the meaningless 24/7 championship? Have you ever started hating a friend because they texted you 2 instead of 2? You ever wonder why Reginald is still here? Very good. Zachary T. Robinson, some suggestions for a cameo from Jonathan Frakes. Have you ever wondered how many rounds there are? Is it Sid? And is he evil? And do you ever wonder when Peanuts were on the up? Can't wait for Quizzlemania this week. Sully and Big Damo will be an amazing pair. Big Damo, of course, Killian Dane. That's on Thursday, everybody, not the usual Wednesday.
Yes, because we don't want to clash with the football.
It's coming home. Not a real doctor in training. Ollie, your Jonathan Frakes bit in the edited review today made me decide to see if I could hunt out the old Beyond Belief episodes. Turns out they're all available on Prime Video. Oh, God, we're going to get copyrighted in the UK. PSA, Beyond Belief is infinitely more fun than current Raw.
I believe it.
Cam Cooper, have you ever heard a man in his 40s refer to himself as America's Moist Wanted? Nate S, you guys need to slide into Evil Uno's DMs. He's looking for a YouTube channel for the Dark Order since they got kicked off BTE. Yeah, so that happened yesterday's episode.
I would imagine they'll probably just start their own one, right?
Or go with Sammy. But we know Colt. Could ask him. Got an M. Scott Peden, long-time viewer, first-time Ultra Chatter. Since PFK got the boot, I pledged more and became a $25 backer. Jam that jam. Good idea, Scott. And Dean Barrettam for now. Have you ever been beaten by a distraction finish? Have you ever seen Bad Bunny? Did you ever think Miz was getting a huge push? Have you considered a bigger boat? Have you ever looked at a pendulum and thought, that swings one way?
That last one's really good.
Very good.
Did you just before we get into all of our Jonathan Frakes things, did you see the footballer fake his injury in the football recently? Because it reminded me of a Seth Rollins match. I'll just play it for you now. There he is, like, oh no, ow, ow, everyone's running past me. Oh, what?
John. Well, it's 4:00, so we are sort of out of time, but I'll quickly run through a few of these Frakes suggestions. There's loads. Have you ever had goo come out of your mouth for no reason? Have you ever been part of Retribution? I like that one.
Have you ever watched a horrible show for months as a social experiment?
Have you ever walked out in a match for no reason?
Have you ever heard someone talk and wish, can I pause you?
Have you ever wondered who the tag team champions are?
Have you ever main evented a pay-per-view only to get released a few weeks later?
Those start to sound like sort of legal advice adverts. Have you ever seen a box-like structure?
Have you ever seen so many DQs, roll-ups, and distractions?
Do you forget that a pay-per-view is today?
Do you ever dread a weekly 3-hour show?
Have you ever felt the glow?
Sorry, I like this one. Have you ever seen a 4-week push?
Have your ancestors ever fought the Loch Ness Monster?
Let's have a look at the other ones. Have
you ever been a sommelier? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, delightful. Very good. Have you ever fallen off a roof but been saved by a slightly smaller roof underneath?
Oh, that's
good
brilliant.
Callback. 1 year on from there was a slightly smaller roof.
Have you ever vandalized public property only to get hired by the company that owned the property? That is fantastic. Oh, well, we'll keep you posted on the Jonathan Frakes thing. We'll see if we can make that happen. But thank you, everybody, for joining us here today. Tell them what's coming up, Luke.
Hey, so coming up on this week on the WrestleTalk podcast, we have got the NXT review tomorrow with Pete and Tempest, your Jam That Champion, Pete, that is. Then Ollie and I will be back to review AEW Dynamite this coming Thursday. Very much looking forward to that. It's in front of fans and all that, featuring Andrade El Idolo's debut match for AEW. So I'm sure it can be a really newsworthy show to talk about. And then on Friday, myself and Denise Salcedo are being joined by the friendos from Going In Raw, Steve and Larson are going to be on the show with us talking about the biggest news in the week. And then on Saturday, Pete and Tempest will be doing the SmackDown review as we gear up for next week, where we're going to be having Money in the Bank predictions and Money in the Bank live stream reactions featuring the first ever Jam in a Jar ladder match. What
does everyone think about Luke's eye line when he does the plugs?
I'm trying to look into the
I know,
camera.
yeah.
Does it look like I'm looking
talking
slightly...
to me? Is it weird, everybody? I always think to say this.
I don't know. I always figured that was the best way for me to like communicate to the audience. Is it the wrong way to do it?
It probably is the best way. Anyway, thank you everybody ever so much for joining us and all your generous Ultra Chats, and for Jonathan Frakes just for being an absolute treasure. Please do subscribe to this channel. Go check us out on Patreon as well, and head over to WrestleTalk.com because that's what I'm going to be doing, because Jimmy Uso, yes, has reportedly been arrested for a DUI. All of the latest news will be on WrestleTalk.com. And Pete's done a breaking news video about it on WrestleTalk too, so maybe check over there as well. I've been Ollie Davis. This has been Lukewarm Luke Owen. And that was Wrestling Jam That Jam. I haven't done an outro for a while. It sounds weird.
You could fist me, bro, if you wanted to. The other way. There it is. Yeah, fist me, bro. Right there.
Got an Ocado order to unpack.
An Ocado order?
An Ocado.
Reign Omega!
Have you ever walked out of a mall into a huge parking area and realized you'd forgotten where you parked your car?
Ever gone mountain biking? What do you want to...